rich, comforting aroma of a fresh, out-of-the-oven pizza used to be the most familiar scent in Michael Carter's life. A scent of dreams, hope, and the deep love he held for the little restaurant he had spent the last 15 years nurturing. Every morning, before sunlight even touched the quiet alleyways, he would unlock the doors with a heart full of anticipation, like a father embracing the child he'd poured his life into. But this morning, standing silently across the street, that same heart felt unbearably heavy. The oversized hoodie and the faded red baseball cap he had borrowed from his teenage son served as a perfect disguise, concealing the image of the once strict restaurant owner who always wore a neatly pressed shirt and slacks. Today, he wasn't Michael Carter, owner of Carter's Classic Pizza. Today, he was just a middle-aged man quietly trying to understand where his dream had begun to crack. Once again, he whispered to himself, "You've got this, Mikey," as if that simple phrase was the last string keeping him from falling apart. His pain wasn't just from the 40% drop in revenue, the cold reality reflected in spreadsheets back home. It was the invisible losses that hurt more. Misses were gathering again. Romano no longer coming in for her Tuesday vegetarian pizza, the Martinez family canceling their traditional birthday celebration, and the high school basketball team, kids who once cheered with every slice, now ordering from Pizza Hut instead. Those little habits, once so constant, were gone. He quietly pulled out his phone and stared at the restaurant's review page. One sentence glared at him. "Found a hair in my pizza. Manager didn't care. Never coming back." It was a stab to his soul. He knew his kitchen staff wore hairnets. He enforced that rule without compromise, but maybe what was lost wasn't the protocol. It was the pride, the spirit that once made Carter's Pizza special. A young couple exited the restaurant, visibly disappointed. The girl scoffed. "Pizza's stone cold." That hit him like a dagger. His pizza, crafted from a recipe refined over 3 generations, was never, ever cold in the middle. He could no longer just stand there. Taking a deep breath, he crossed the street and pushed open the familiar door, the one with the little bell that now rang with a tone slightly off pitch, a sound he used to love, now unfamiliar. He didn't walk in as the boss. He walked in as a stranger, desperate to uncover the truth hiding beneath the surface. The new cashier didn't bother looking up from his phone. "Welcome to Carter's," he mumbled, as dull and mechanical as a looped recording. Michael saw the carelessness and had to suppress the urge to speak out. Instead, he responded in a slightly higher voice than usual. "1 slice of pepperoni and a Coke, please." Tom lazily quoted, $7.50, finally looking up for the first time, but instead of entering the order into the upgraded POS system, one Michael had proudly spent a fortune installing. Tom scribbled it on a worn sticky note and shouted to the kitchen, "1 slice, pepperoni." Michael frowned. The receipt was printed on thin, cheap paper, not the high-grade thermal paper they always used. He slipped it into his pocket, already forming questions in his mind. Taking a seat near the counter, he pretended to wait. When in truth, he was observing. The pizza arrived a few minutes later, cold and stiff. The cheese had solidified, lacking the gooey richness that once defined their pies. Michael's throat tightened, not because of the pizza, but because something deeper had shattered. Maybe this place wasn't his anymore. A group of construction workers entered, regulars who always ordered the Meat Lovers special every Monday. But today, they didn't bring the usual smiles or energy. Instead, Michael noticed disappointment in their eyes. He watched as Lisa, the second cashier, took their orders, not using the POS system either. Her notebook looked entirely different from Tom's. Everything was happening outside the structure he had so carefully built. "This sucks. Remember how good this place used to be?" one worker sighed to his colleague. Michael clenched the cold pizza in his hand, heart aching with bitterness. His family's secret sauce, prepared each morning by his own hand, following his grandfather's handwritten notes, was being treated like an afterthought. The dough, which needed exactly 72 hours to rise just right, was likely rushed. The cheese, sourced from a small Wisconsin dairy still using traditional methods, was probably swapped out. All that passion and precision was being discarded. As the lunch rush began, Michael noticed something strange. Every time a customer complained, and there were plenty, Tom and Lisa exchanged glances. Their responses were almost rehearsed. "We'll let the owner know. Management is handling it." Their words felt robotic, empty. Then came the moment that turned Michael's blood to ice. A young mother stormed up to the counter, her face flushed with anger. In her hands was a pizza box. "This is the third time this week my delivery's been wrong," she snapped. "I ordered cheese pizza for my kid's birthday party. This is covered in jalapenos and hot sauce. They can't eat this." Lisa gave a smile too polished to be real. "We're so sorry, ma'am. Our delivery system's been having some technical issues. Would you like a refund?" "No. I want to speak to the owner." "Mr. Carter is away on business." Tom jumped in smoothly. "Personal matters." Michael felt a crushing pressure in his chest. He hadn't gone anywhere. He had been buried in his office every day, trying to solve the puzzle of their falling sales, and yet they were telling customers he had vanished. The woman left with a refund. But what happened next stunned Michael to his core. In a brief lull between customers, Lisa leaned toward Tom and giggled. She tried to whisper, but the sound carried. "Too easy," she said, grinning. "He still thinks it's just that people don't like his pizza anymore." Michael's heart stopped. Slowly, with trembling fingers, he opened his phone and tapped the voice recorder app. He had come here looking for answers. He had stumbled into betrayal. He placed the phone on the table, its mic aimed toward the counter, trying to appear calm while his mind spun. Tom and Lisa continued their conversation, voices low but audible. "Did you see his face when he looked at last week's numbers?" Lisa smirked. Looked like he was about to cry. Michael remembered that moment, alone in his office, staring at the data as 3 catering contracts vanished in 1 week. He had thought only he knew. "The funniest part," Tom sneered, patting his pocket, "is he still using that secret family recipe, measuring every gram of sauce like he's curing cancer." Michael's eyes flicked to the small vial in Tom's pocket, a detail he had clocked the moment he entered. "Feel that the flavor killer?" Lisa asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just a few drops, and boom, cardboard pizza. Not toxic, just tasteless." Dylan's chemist buddy is a genius. That name, Dylan, hit Michael like a hammer. Tall, lean, sharp-eyed. Dylan had been hired 8 months ago as a shift manager. Michael was impressed by his degree, his talk, but then the cash register started coming up short. $20, 0 cents, then $50, 0 cents, then more. Hoping it was just a mistake, Michael installed cameras. What he saw was Dylan pocketing money after closing. The confrontation was brutal. Dylan had yelled about student loans, about people like Michael having it all without earning it. Michael dismissed it as anger. Now, it felt like prophecy fulfilled. "Dylan says it's time for phase 2, Lisa muttered. "Carter's too stubborn. It's not tanking fast enough." Tom grinned, a twisted smirk that made Michael's skin crawl. "Don't worry. Got a buddy at the health department ready to go. There'll be violations next week. Serious ones. Isn't that risky?" "Nah, Dylan's got it covered. The inspector's got gambling debts. Dylan's got photos. Once Carter sells, the new owners will wipe the record clean." Michael's stomach churned. He had lived his entire life running a kitchen with the highest standards. As a child, barely tall enough to reach the counter, his grandfather had taught him that food safety wasn't just a rule, it was a responsibility. The idea that someone was sabotaging that legacy made his blood boil. Then the doorbell chimed again. Michael looked up instinctively and nearly blew his cover. Sarah Chin, his head chef for the last decade, walked in, wearing street clothes. She wasn't scheduled today. "Hey guys," she said, her usual warmth gone. "Is Mr. Carter around?" Tom shrugged. "Nah, probably hiding in his office again, crying over the reports." Sarah's face tightened. Barely, but Michael noticed. She'd been withdrawn lately. He thought it was stress. Maybe it was something more. "I need to check something in the kitchen." "Wait," Lisa interrupted too quickly. "Health inspector's coming soon. No unauthorized access back there." Sarah paused, hand on the swinging kitchen door. "Since when do you care about health codes?" she asked, voice cold and deliberate. The tension in the room thickened like smoke. Michael saw Tom's hand drift toward his pocket. The vial. Sarah saw it too, and in that moment, Michael knew he wasn't alone. "All right then," she said, her voice strained but calm. "I'll come back later." As she turned and walked out the door, Michael caught a glimpse of something small in her hand, a mini camera. Through the glass he saw her quickly step outside, pull out her phone and make a call. "She's suspicious about something?" Tom asked, still watching Sarah's silhouette. "Doesn't matter," Lisa shrugged. "Next week, this place will be drowning in health violations. By then, Carter will be begging to sell just to cover his bank loans. Dylan's buyer still good to go?" Tom followed up. "That's a major restaurant group. They're planning to demolish this place and put up a fast food chain. Dylan gets a referral bonus, we get our cut, and Carter, he'll get to watch his family legacy turned into yet another soulless burger joint." The slice in Michael's hand had been crushed into doughy mush, but the anger wasn't about the pizza. It was about the memories. The recipe book sitting in his office wasn't just a collection of instructions. It was a living archive of his past. The day the shop opened, his grandfather beaming as he taught him to smell the sauce with his nose, not taste it with his tongue. His father showing him how to knead the dough until his arms gave out, every page soaked with love and sacrifice. And now it was all at risk, not from competition, but from betrayal. But they had made one fatal mistake, assuming his silence was weakness. They thought his love of tradition meant he couldn't change. They misjudged a man willing to do whatever it took to protect his family's legacy. Sitting just a few steps from the counter, Michael listened to every plan, every word of treachery, and began to formulate his own. Sarah might be the unexpected ally he needed. And if Dylan thought he was the only one capable of long-game strategy, he was about to be schooled. Michael turned off the recording. He had evidence now, but he needed more. The shock and heartbreak within him were slowly giving way to a new emotion: resolve. Once Tom and Lisa were distracted prepping for the dinner rush, Michael slipped out of the restaurant. Each step was heavy with thought, but he knew better than to act in haste. This battle wouldn't be won by the impatient. As he turned the corner, a familiar voice called from behind. "Nice hat. Must have been tough." Die-hard Yankees fan wearing a Red Sox cap. Sarah leaned against a delivery van, arms crossed, eyes knowing. Michael nearly froze, but her subtle smile eased his tension. "You knew it was me? From the moment you walked in. That limp from your high school injury? Unmistakable. But, more importantly," she held up her phone. "I've been collecting evidence for weeks." Michael stared at his longtime head chef in astonishment. "You knew about Dylan's plan?" "Not all of it, but I started getting suspicious when supplier changes went through without authorization. Premium ingredients replaced with bargain substitutes. Orders being mysteriously mixed up." Yubeke opened her phone. Photos appeared on screen, fake invoices, altered messages. Even a video of Tom pouring something into the saucepot when he thought no one was watching. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" Michael asked, trying to hide the sting in his voice. Sarah's face darkened. "Because at first I thought you were part of it." "Well, think about it, Michael. Everything was falling into place a little too cleanly. And right around then, you upgraded your insurance coverage. I updated the policy 3 months ago as part of my annual review. The reappraisal was for a loan I needed to stay afloat," Michael said, his voice cracking. "But from the outside, yeah, I can see how it looked shady." "What changed your mind?" he asked, now in a low, gravelly tone. Sarah scrolled to a text thread. Dylan started getting cocky, bragging to friends about his perfect plan to bring down Carter's pizza. I overheard him at a bar last week, drunk and loose-lipped. That's when I knew you weren't the mastermind. You were the mark. They moved to Sarah's car for more privacy. What she revealed next made Michael's blood run cold. Dylan's not acting alone, she said, pulling out a thick folder. He's just a pawn in something much bigger. She handed him a stack of documents. Michael flipped through property records, rezoning applications, development blueprints, all stamped with the unfamiliar logo of Riverside Development Corporation. They've been buying up nearly every property on this block, Sarah explained. Your restaurant is the final piece they need to complete a commercial mega project. Michael stood still. 6 months ago, a broker tried to buy me out. I told him the place wasn't for sale. At any price, exactly. So when that failed, they brought in Dylan, Sarah said. He was furious after getting fired and convinced he knew your restaurant's weak spots. Riverside offered him revenge and a cut of the profits if he helped drive you out. Michael flipped rapidly through the pages. Even the building permits and environmental reviews were dated before Dylan's firing. This wasn't a vendetta. It was orchestrated business sabotage. But Dylan doesn't know, Sarah added, her smile icy, that once the sale is final, Riverside plans to dump everything on him. They've built a false paper trail, making him look like the lone culprit, threatening staff, bribing the inspector. He thinks he's getting paid, but he's just the fall guy. Michael swallowed hard. How did you get all this? Sarah hesitated. My brother's a corporate attorney. He went head-to-head with Riverside in another case. Same playbook. Find a bitter ex-employee, have them do the dirty work, then make them disappear. Michael's head spun. He had thought he was fighting petty revenge. In reality, it was a full-scale heist, engineered by a corporation and planned months in advance. There's more, Sarah said, lowering her voice. The health inspection next week. It's not just about citations. They're planting evidence of money laundering. They're building a fake financial trail to make you look like a criminal operation. The revenue drop? Just a cover story to justify why you're suddenly selling. Michael nodded, connecting the dots. That's why they changed the receipt paper, to create a second set of books. Exactly. Tom and Lisa think they're helping Dylan sabotage you. But they are unknowingly part of a federal crime that could put everyone in prison. Michael leaned back, eyes closed. This wasn't just about losing a restaurant anymore. It was about losing his family's honor, his grandfather's legacy, his father's sacrifice, reduced to a criminal scandal. Sarah, he said slowly, you said Dylan doesn't know they plan to betray him. And no, he's completely clueless. Why? A thought pierced Michael's mind, sharp, focused, undeniable. Because that's where we break this wide open. He stood up straight, a spark in his eyes for the first time in days. Dylan thinks he's in control. Riverside thinks they're pulling the strings. Tom and Lisa think this is just some prank for revenge, but none of them know the full truth. Each one is playing a different game. What are you going to do? Sarah asked, wary. It's time they all find out who they're dealing with. Michael pulled out his phone. But first, I need to call an old friend. He works in the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. For the first time all day, he smiled. And then I'm going to need your help with a very special recipe. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Your grandfather's secret sauce? Or something a little more vengeful? Michael clenched his fist, eyes steely with purpose. Both. The next 3 days were the most intense of Michael's life. Every morning, he showed up at Carter's Classic Pizza like clockwork, pretending to bury himself in paperwork. But his office had become a command center for a calculated counterstrike. Your FBI contact got back to us, Sarah whispered during a rushed meeting. She slid a small pen-shaped device across the desk. Top-tier recording tech, way better than your phone, she said. Michael picked up the pen. eyes narrowing with purpose, and they're very interested in Riverside. A major shift was unfolding. It turned out Carter's Classic Pizza wasn't alone. According to the FBI, Michael's case matched 3 others in different states. The Bureau had been secretly investigating Riverside development for months, building a full-scale prosecution under the RICO Act designed to take down criminal enterprises. And now, they had what they needed to move. A knock on the office door startled both Michael and Sarah. It was Tom, the cashier, holding a stack of delivery receipts. Mr. Carter. "These need your signature," Tom said, trying to sound calm, though his eyes scanned the office, clearly searching for any sign that the owner was preparing to sell or was on the verge of bankruptcy. Michael picked up his new recording pen and signed each document slowly, his gaze locked on Tom's expression. "Everything all right, Tom?" he asked, his tone light as a breeze. Tom hesitated for just a beat. "Yes, sir, everything's fine." But his hand instinctively brushed against his shirt pocket. Michael knew exactly what was inside. The vial of flavor-killing chemical. After Tom left, Sarah shook her head. "He's getting suspicious. Yesterday, he asked me why you weren't panicking about the health inspection threat." "Perfect," Michael said with a cold smile. "It's time to start phase 1. Call him." Sarah nodded, pulled out her phone and dialed. "Hi, Dylan. This is Sarah Chin from Carter's. I've been thinking about what you said at the bar last week. We need to meet. I've got something important to tell you about Riverside." The meeting was set for a bar 3 towns over, far from prying eyes. As for Michael, he had a meeting of his own, just as important, in a very different setting. He straightened his tie and stepped into the sleek office of Riverside Development Corporation. "Mr. Carter." Gerald Walsh, the regional director, rose to greet him with a polished smile. "What an honor to have you here. Quite the surprise." "Surprise," Michael replied as he sat down, his tone steady. "I assumed you were expecting me." Walsh's smile didn't waver. "Your restaurant's been struggling lately, hasn't it? Food safety ratings, supply issues, all the kind of problems that make a man consider letting go." "Running a restaurant has never been easy," he continued smoothly, clearly steering the conversation toward a buyout. But Michael cut him off cold. "Save your breath," he said sharply. "I'm not here to sell. I'm here to make you an offer." Walsh stiffened slightly, his face twitching. "What kind of offer?" Michael pulled out a folder. Inside are records of payments to a disgruntled ex-employee, proof of coordinated sabotage, and evidence of commercial fraud. The FBI finds it all very compelling. Walsh's smile vanished. "These are serious allegations, Mr. Carter. You might want to be careful. False claims like this could lead to a defamation lawsuit." "Check your phone," Michael said calmly. Right on cue, Walsh's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and the color drained from his face. Sarah had just sent Dylan all the evidence of Riverside's plan to pin everything on him. In a panic, Dylan forwarded the documents to everyone he knew at Riverside, including Walsh. "His disgruntled employees, hard to control, aren't they?" Michael said as he stood. "I'll let you deal with the fallout. Oh, and by the way, my restaurant, it's not for sale. Not now, not ever." Michael walked out of Riverside's office with steady steps. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah. "Dylan's furious. He's threatening to go to the press. FBI is mobilizing." Phase 1 was complete, and Dylan, enraged at being betrayed, was now a bomb detonating at the heart of Riverside's scheme. Without realizing, he was exposing his own crimes in the process. But Michael wasn't done. He returned to Carter's just before the evening rush. Tom and Lisa were at the front counter, visibly tense. They'd clearly heard about the unraveling chaos Dylan had triggered. "Dawn." "Lisa," Michael called out. "Join me in my office, please." The two exchanged nervous glances and followed him. Inside, Michael sat behind his desk, watching as Tom repeatedly touched his pocket, the one with the chemical vial. "Fascinating stuff," Michael began casually. "That substance, Tom, the FBI lab found it quite intriguing. completely harmless under normal conditions, but their mass spectrometer is far from ordinary. Tom went pale. Lisa started to stand, but Michael's next words cut like a knife. "Sit down. Both of you. You're about to learn the difference between you two have a clear choice," Michael said, his voice now glacial. "Fully cooperate. Tell the FBI everything you know about Dylan and Riverside, or go down as willing participants in corporate sabotage and food tampering. Your call." Lisa stammered. "But you don't understand. We didn't know anything about the corporate stuff. Dylan said it was just revenge. We didn't know we were really poisoning people." "Really?" Michael interrupted, eyes piercing. "You think destroying a business that feeds over 50 families is just a game? So tell me, what's betrayal worth these days?" Before either could answer, Sarah burst into the office, her face pale. "Michael, you need to see this." She turned on the wall-mount TV. The screen flashed to breaking news. Dylan was outside Riverside's headquarters, shouting, waving documents, ranting to the cameras. Behind him, FBI agents could be seen entering the building. Michael looked at Lisa and Tom, now ghost white, frozen in their seats. "Looks like our friend decided to go public after all," he said coolly. "So, what'll it be? Witnesses or defendants?" Tom reached into his pocket, pulled out the vial with trembling fingers, and placed it on Michael's desk. "I'll talk. Everything. I'll tell you Good," Michael said, pulling out the recording pen. "Let's start from the beginning. Leave nothing out." Tom and Lisa began their confessions. Michael glanced at Sarah, and they exchanged a look of mutual understanding. Phase 2 was complete, but the real test lay ahead. Tomorrow, the next morning, Carter's Classic Pizza was packed. The parking lot overflowed with news vans. Reporters crowded outside, microphones and cameras pointed at the glass entrance, desperate to capture whatever was happening inside. Michael stood at his office window, watching them quietly, remembering something his father once told him. "Son, in business, timing is everything." He'd never felt the truth of that more than now. "They're all here," Sarah said, closing the office door behind her. "Channel 4, Channel 7, even that food blogger who slammed us 3 months ago. They all want interviews." "Let them wait," Michael replied, eyes scanning the documents on his desk. There were signed confessions from Tom and Lisa, Dylan's messages, financial records showing how Riverside manipulated property sales. But the most important document known only to him and Sarah was still sealed in an envelope. A legal move that would flip the entire game. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked, eyeing the agreement nervously. "Sometimes," Michael said, placing his hand on his grandfather's old recipe book. "The best defense is a good offense." "Kitchen ready, exactly as you requested. Though I still don't get it." The noise outside interrupted her. Through the window, they saw Dylan stumble through the crowd of reporters, face flushed, shouting furiously. 2 FBI agents followed closely, but didn't intervene. "Right on schedule," Michael said with a faint smile. "Perfect timing." Dylan burst through the restaurant doors. The cheerful ding of the bell clashed violently with the tension he brought in. "Tada!" he screamed. "You set me up!" The restaurant fell silent. Customers turned, phones raised to record. It felt like the entire world had stopped. Michael stepped calmly from his office, as if walking onto a stage. "Dylan," he said evenly, "I was hoping you'd show. You think you're so clever, making me take the fall, tricking me into exposing Riverside. Now everyone thinks I'm their puppet. Or perhaps," Michael said loudly, ensuring everyone could hear, "you're referring to stealing money from the cash register? Hiring people to write fake reviews? Or should I mention the chemical additive you had Tom put into the sauce?" Dylan froze, his eyes wide with panic. 2 FBI agents stood behind him, waiting for a signal, but Michael gestured for them to hold. This confrontation needed to end the right way. You have no proof," Dylan stammered. Michael pulled out his phone and opened a list of audio recordings. "Oh, but I do. Would you like to hear you and Tom planning it? Or the messages you sent bribing the health inspector? He turned to the customers, reporters, and the cameras recording the scene. Anyone interested in hearing them? The crowd murmured. A few nodded. A well-known blogger raised her handheld camera, eyes gleaming. "You're threatening me." Dylan backed away. "No." Michael turned to the customers. "I just want to apologize for this disruption, and to make amends. Today, all meals are free. Even better, I will personally make each pizza following my grandfather's original recipe, without any of Dylan's additives." The entire restaurant erupted in applause. The atmosphere felt as if a weight had been lifted. "Sarah," Michael called, "bring me my grandfather's book." She stepped out, holding a worn, tattered notebook, its spine frayed but still carrying the scent of time. Dylan raged. "That book means nothing. I've already copied all the recipes. I'm opening my own place and it'll be even better than yours." Michael opened the book, eyes fixed on Dylan. "Are you sure you copied the correct recipes?" His gaze hinted at something imminent. Michael's cold voice made Dylan hesitate. "You think you copied the real recipes?" He smirked. "The actual recipes are written in Armenian, my grandfather's native language." Dylan's face turned pale. "What you stole was the English version, a fake I created the day after I fired you." The room fell silent. A few customers gaped. The food blogger live streaming gasped softly. All eyes turned to Dylan, now trembling, his arrogance gone. "I knew you wouldn't stop," Michael continued. "So every recipe you took, every technique you learned was altered, just enough to ensure the dishes never achieved the true flavor." "No way," Dylan stammered. "Impossible. Ever wonder why no investors were interested in your project? Why Riverside paid you to sabotage me instead of letting you compete directly?" Michael stepped closer, his eyes piercing through Dylan's delusions. "Because they tried your recipes, and they knew they were worthless." Dylan nearly collapsed into a chair. His entire being seemed drained as the truth unfolded before everyone. The silence in the room was no longer anticipatory. It echoed with failure. Michael gently placed his hand on the old frayed notebook, as if touching the heart of his lineage. "The real recipes have never left this book, and today he decided to cook not just to prove what was right, but to rekindle what was worth preserving." For the next 2 hours, Michael stood in the open kitchen, crafting each pizza with the skill and love of 3 generations. He explained every step, how to blend the sauce, ferment the dough for 72 hours, and select the finest cheeses from Wisconsin farms. The food blogger streamed the demonstration live. Viewership soared to tens of thousands within the first hour. Meanwhile, Sarah quietly completed the final phase in the office. She scanned documents, sent emails, and made calls to media outlets and investors. Evidence against Riverside was dispatched not only to the FBI, but also to their entire executive board, shareholders, and business rivals. That afternoon, Riverside's stock plummeted by 15%. 3 executives resigned. Across town, Carter's Classic Pizza had lines wrapping around the block. "They'll try to cover this up," Sarah whispered as the restaurant closed. "Let them try." Michael held up a legal document. "Tomorrow morning, I'll officially file a RICO lawsuit against Riverside, not just for bribery, but for everything they've done to family businesses over the past 5 years. Sarah's eyes widened at the final signature. "Is this Riverside's former CFO?" "Exactly. Turns out, he wanted out for a while. Dylan's downfall gave him the perfect excuse." Michael looked around the restaurant. A place that had been his grandfather's dream, his father's life, and now his own mission. He hadn't just survived, he had triumphed. With truth, honor, and pizza made from memories. "But I still don't understand," Sarah asked. "Why make such a big scene today? We had enough evidence already." Michael smiled, placing his hand on the recipe book. "Because sometimes, Sarah, the sweetest revenge isn't cold, it's hot. aromatic, and served with a side of justice. A month later, Carter's classic pizza wasn't just revived, it had become a symbol. Lines formed every morning, and newspapers covered the story extensively. But today was special. "Ready?" Sarah asked, standing by the door with a tablet in hand. The headline of the day's major news: Riverside CEO indicted, pizza shop owner turns the tables. Michael nodded, pulling the notebook from his crossbody bag. "Almost. Just one last thing." Inside, the new kitchen gleamed with modern equipment purchased with compensation from Riverside. All the staff were new, except for Sarah. But the most significant change wasn't the machinery. In the main dining area, Michael gathered the entire staff. "Before we open today, I want you all to know this." He held up the notebook. "This isn't just a cookbook. It's the soul of my family. A testament to perseverance, quality, and honor." He opened the book, revealing handwritten lines in Armenian. "My grandfather wrote these when he left Armenia, carrying dreams and skilled hands. He believed food wasn't just for sustenance, but for connecting people." Sarah handed each staff member a folder. "Today, we're launching the Community Restaurant Protection Initiative. A portion of our profits will support restaurants bullied by large corporations. A legal network and support fund will stand by them." The doorbell rang. Mrs. Romano, a longtime regular, entered, eyes glistening. "I saw the news." She held her husband's hand. "About what they did to your family's recipes. We want you to know, no restaurant can replace this place." Michael stepped forward to hug them. "Your table is ready, and today you'll taste what real pizza truly is."